グリザイアの迷宮。
Bonjour Watcher, this is Johnny Mega 45 and welcome back to the Labyrinth of Grisaia. Yes, in the last episode, we have seen the murder of the father and the suicide of her mother. It was so bad. Yeah,
続きから
very bad. Gonna continue now. Unable to bring myself to walk past the open living door room, I stood awkwardly in the passage waiting for the conversation to end. But suddenly I noticed my friend that he was a sharp-eyed man.
おや
His gaze struck to me like a glue. Kira's eyes were calm, yet somehow they remind me of a carnivorous animal tracking its prey. A chill ran down my spine. My tongue refused to move. It was all I could do to bow my head quickly in his direction.
こちらの少年は
はあ。和樹の弟で、ユージと申します。
おお、それは。
I didn't understand what was that supposed to mean. In retrospect, there might be not having any meaning there is to find. The man named Kirara gazing down at me with appraising eyes, slipping a hand into the breast of his suit, and in one smooth motion withdrew a gleaming golden cigarette case.
Oh.
As soon as my father noticed what Kirara was holding, he hurriedly reached into his own suit in search of a lighter.
いや、火は結構。
When he opened the lid of his case, the clear tone of a tinkling music box began to flow from inside.
私はタバコを飲まないんだ。坊や、チョコレートは好きかい？
Smiling brightly, he took an expensive-looking piece of chocolate out of the case. Embarrassed to be offered candy by utterly adult and discomforted by the fact that I could turn him down without being rude, I felt my ears growing hot with shame. Thank you very much. As I accepted the chocolate from Kirara, I saw my father scowl. He wasn't upset I had taken the man's present. It seemed more like a bit of disappointment that I come home instead of Kazuki. Unable to induce his gaze, I bowed my head a second time and then turned around and flew to my room.
かわいいお子さんだ。彼も絵を描くのですか？
いえいえ、めっそうもない。あれはそっちの才能には恵まれませんで。お恥ずかしい。
I was used to hear my father call me that boy with the derision in his voice, and to having people say, "We are not expecting anything of you" to my face. That was just how adults were. To them, children were just toy or tools. I resigned myself to that, and I was a useless tool, a defective plaything. Every time that man named Kiara came to our house, he would send strange glances in my direction. Something about the way he looked at me was definitely different from the other adults I've met so far. Even at the time, I vaguely sensed the desire in his eyes, and it made me uncomfortable. Somehow it didn't seem like the way an adult should look at a child. But even so, he brought me presents every time he visited, so I never really went out of my way to avoid him. I was a little too innocent for my own good.
今日のお土産もあまり気に入ってはもらえなかったかな？
No, I really like it.
いいさ、気にすることはない。秘密はあっても嘘はダメだ、ユージ君。私は君を知りたいんだ。
As Kirara looked down at me with a cold condensation in his eyes, I felt an instinctive twinge of fear.
君はどっちなんだろうね。
何？
子供というのはね、ユージ君。大きく2つのパターンに分類される。自由を欲しがるタイプと束縛を望むタイプ。君はどっちなんだい？
I don't know.
なら後者だ。
At the time, I didn't understand what Kira was talking about, and I wasn't interested in trying to understand. That didn't change even after he adopted me. After witnessing the death of my parents, I withdrew completely into myself. When Kira came to me in the house, I was already a shadow of a person. As a child with no living guardians, I didn't have much say in choosing my destination. But more importantly, I lost the willpower necessary to even care.
よく似合うじゃないか、ユージ。
Wait, what? Oh yeah! He made Yuuji become Kazuki!
相変わらず無口だな、君は。まあそういう君だから私は気に入ってるんだがね。
Okay. He is gay. I repeat, he is gay. Ray Kirara, you are gay. You really do have a face like a girl's, don't you? On the way, Kirara dressed me out in a female clothes. And he liked the effect so much that from the day I was on, even nothing else. It was better than being beaten. Being forced to wear girls' clothes didn't bother me much. In any case, it's not like I could resist. A child can survive alone. I had food, I had walls and a roof over my head. My clothes was flooded in color, but they kept me warm enough. There wasn't any problem.
ユージ、君は本当に可愛いな。
Yeah, I love dressing me out like a doll and sitting me on his lap. Like in a weird dodgy idea exactly what he wanted. Emptiness might be another word for absolute emotional overload. Even to myself, it was eating how calm I felt. My mind was so deeply scarred that I lost all interest in life and death alike. No matter what happened, I just couldn't manage to care. Yeah, it treated me so well for so long that I was obedient. I didn't say a single word, but that never seems to make him angry. As if could compensate for my silent kid, I would talk constantly.
この国も本当につまらない国になったものだね。いや、それはこの国に限った話ではないか。1974年当時は世界中が楽しかった。まるで世界中が遊園地のようだった。
I listened silently to Kiara's words, but as always, they were incomprehensible. Then again, it's not as if he seems particularly interested in helping me understand. I was an object to him, a living toy. For Kiara, interacting with me was the equivalent of playing with a doll. As long as I could stare, I didn't snare or break my teeth, I couldn't sleepwalk peacefully through whatever remained of my life. It's not that I didn't understand what was going on. I simply chose to accept it. That's it, until the day when my unconsciousness might rebel. Kiara's mansion was often host to a number of adult house guests who always seemed to be coming and going. One of those men came by on the day when Kiara was out, taking advantage of the owner's asset to lay on his toys. He was a small man, but so fat he appeared nearly circular. I never saw anything other than a crush near on his ugly, droopy face. There was always a dark face on his side, but to me looked like straight out of the center casket. And as I discovered, he was also a genuine sadist. From what he said that day, he said he had his eyes on me for sometimes. I suppose the way I suddenly said anything, everything made me an appealing target. After warning me not to tell anyone, he proceeded to vigorously beat me as if to vent all his accumulated frustration and rage. Utterly selfish acts of violence directed only towards the weak and powerless. The non-city unpleasant smell of high-pitched calling could go watch on his wrist. Everything about that man, everything he said and did was remind me of my father. The instant I realized that memories began to flash before my eyes, I just see always made a conscious effort to forget. By deliberately emptying my mind, I found a kind of peace, but that may finally pull everything back to the surface. I don't remember what happened next very clearly. The man was breathing roughly, his face shining with greasy sweat. I reached out reflexively with my right hand, grabbing a nearby pen and stabbed into his eyes. Wait, what? He screamed right against my eardrum. It would sound like a shriek of a pig on the slaughtering line, but I don't remember it inspiring any particular emotion. The only thing that mattered was the voice ringing out in my head, kill. Is there anything in here I can hit him with? Getting inside a vest full of rape I couldn't even name, I dragged my son's luggage on the ground and seized it with my right hand. Have to kill him. As the man writhing in agony on the floor, clutching his ruined left eye with both hands, I struck his head with a vest. The impulse traveled through my arms and resounded pleasantly in my brain. It felt as if my heart itself was quivering. Basking in the sensation of early summer, I felt the corners of my mouth twitching upwards. A smile. Oh, of course I was smiling. It felt like a very long time since that had happened. At some point, I noticed the gentle tinkling of a music box. I turned towards the sound. Kiara was standing at the door. When I returned, oh, he killed someone! In front of him! Okay, I thought he killed. Of course not, Kirihara Rei. He is a handsome man. Look at his blazer. I killed one of Kirihara's guests. He might get angry at me at this time. But whatever happens, happens. I didn't care anymore, I just didn't care. As the music box tuned echoes against the walls, Kirihara took a piece of chocolate from his cigarette case and slyly put it into his mouth and glanced down at the man at the floor.
殺しちゃったのかい？
For a moment, I could understand the meaning of his questions. Had I killed that man? That probably meant I'd be the next to die. Kirihara would kill me here and now. Oh well, what can you do? It's not like there was any point of my life in the first place. But for some reason, Kirihara was smiling, as if to say, "Look at the mess you have made." It was the half-hearted disapproval of a man whose beloved pet has stained the living room carpet. A wide, almost amused smile. Still sucking on his chocolate, Kirihara surveyed the chaotic interior of the room. When his gaze returned to me, standing there drenched in blood, he burst into raucous laughter.
やるじゃないか、ユージ。君面白いよ。
Are you that afraid of that? Better to kill someone than allow yourself to die. Even with nothing to live for, you resist dying so strongly?
だがそれでいいんだよ、ユージ。 君は正しい。それが人間が本来持つべき本能というやつだ。
You're not angry?
おっと、久しぶりに君の声を聞いたな。現実から逃げ出していた心が戻ってきたのかな？
Smiling, Kirara crushes into his guest and presses her finger to the man's head.
息はあるか。まあ子供の力だ、仕方ないな。
For a moment, a scar crossed Kirara's face, but his unnervingly perfect smile returned almost at once. Come here, Yuuji. I'll give you a chocolate. Kirara beckoned to me with his hand, then set me down his last as always.
いいんだよ。別に怒ってなんかないさ。その男は私も嫌いだった。いつか暇を見て殺してやろうと思っていたが、最近私も何かと忙しくてね。
At first, I thought this is Kazuki, but never mind. Yeah, Yuuji was dressed like a girl.
むしろよくやったと褒めてあげよう、ユージ。
The man was smiling. There was real joy in his face. It was an irrepressible glee of someone who discovered an unexpected use of a toy he thought purely ornamental.
よし、ユージ。もっと勉強をしよう。きっと君は誰よりも優秀な道具になれるよ。
A superior tool.
そう。正しきものが正しく鍛え上げれば、君は立派に役に立つ。それとも、このまま愛玩動物のように生きていく方が気楽でいいかい？
I don't know.
だよね、君にはわからない。だから、私の言う通りに少し頑張ってみておくれよ。ね？
Okay. If I was going to make a noise of myself by continuing to exist, might as well try to be useful somehow. It was hard to imagine the likes of me being good for much, but it couldn't hurt to give it a try. I accepted without a second thought. And that's how you became a killing machine. About a week later, Kirara led me by a hand onto a small airplane that carried us overseas. I don't know what country we landed in. All I know for sure is that it was a very cold place. The country Kirara was known as Oslo. And you told me to call him by that name as well. So that's the guy that he wants to find. At the beginning, he'd Oslo. It was for the very beginning. It's the same guy. Okay, I didn't know why, but I agree easily. It's not if I ever addressed him by name before, and I was planning to start, so it hardly mattered either way. Oslo gave me a warm clothes that brought me by car to a desolate rural town spreading out 1.5 kilometers in 3 directions. At the center of that T stood a small school. It was an occupational training facility that also had established as a personal investment. A school where you could learn various practical skills, beginning with manufacturing. Li Shang, Kirare Oslo. He was a man of many names and many faces. Although I had some vague idea at the time, it was only significant later that I learned his actual profession was terrorism. The school also attacking me towards nothing else than a terrorist-steering organization under his direct control. Even unintentionally revealed a tale of brutality, also to say education in the upper model has also a personal part.
ここには君と同じで親を亡くした子供たちがたくさんいる。みんなと仲良くするんだよ。気に入らない奴がいても殺しちゃダメだ。いいね。
Okay. Just as I also say, there were many children of many races in that school whose circumstances are similar to mine. The majority of the students were visible emaciated, and every one of them had the eye of a starving animal. For the most part, the children kept their distance from each other and focused on their assignments. We were graded competitively on our performance, determining ourselves relatively talent in various fields. Our initial instruction in the use of machine tools was so different from what you get in the real vocational school, but it wasn't long before they started us on a brutal physical training regimen, and by the time we began learning how to make bombs from easily obtained materials, it was more obvious than ever that these wasn't the normal places.
学校は楽しいかい？
Yes. As ever, Oslo was busily flying around the world, but he occasionally made time to drop by and check out on me. I was in Oslo's bed, and there were more than a few people who would be granting me that position. In any groups, those who single out as special will earn their shares of envy, no matter what the circumstances. I can understand the feeling. I felt the same way about the attention Kazuki earned raided our family. The attention with my classmates sometimes even led to unprovoked outbursts of violence, but I had no choice under that capacity to accept the situation. Within organization, good and individual failures are everyone's responsibilities. Poor performance inconvenience everyone around you. Incompetence won't win you many friends. But the opposite is also true. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. When it came to our training, I definitely wasn't in the former category. Still, since this was all I had, the only thing I was good for, I was able to concentrate fiercely on my any task, and I think my results were always at least respectable. Among our numerous fields of study, marksmanship was a particularly specialty of mine, especially at long range. When we trained at sniping, usually assault rifles, I sometimes earned the top daily score. I could do most things if I try hard enough, and I always try hard, but that only added to an antipathy to the others felt for me. After all, it was a school full of people who falling out of society, misshapen puzzle pieces with no place in the world. In that place, the successful always inspire jealousy and hatred. Don't get full of yourself just because all slow lies yo. Rather than saying it out loud, my classmates communicated their message by taking advantage of the to arrest me. Snapping? So what? The guy's doing all the work for you. When it was time for hand-to-hand combat training, my opponents launched me at the as soon as the instruction shout began. Each attack a body of their spike. At the time I was inspired and still nervous. My opponent determined and confident movement made them appear larger than they were. Often I misjudged their approach and took a heavy body blow right out of the back. Since I was more inferior in physics, unless I could do that first attack, I'd be pinned down to the ground in the blink of an eye. Even worse was that my time I managed a body blow and went for an elbow for the face. Then the dust impact registered that the sport before my eyes and my vision shut down as if someone threw a switch. I had to realize I was in deep trouble, but my brain was too busy battling around my skills to think I would plan B. As the only unconscious mind in the state saga, I was removed by my body, taking hold of my head and spanking his knee onto my face like some pro wrestler landing a finishing blow. The shot through my head like a bullet. By the time I realized the trouble I was in, I was already feeling ground against my cheek. And with the strange sensation of the sand pushing his way to my ear, I realized that my father was grinding his foot down on my head. As my struck feet under my classmate's shoes, I was classified to step into a harder match. After temporarily separate us, they asked if I could continue, a question to which there was only one possible answer. I stood away from the butt, to my nose with the back of my hand. I knew why I failed. I never should have tried to take his rush head on. When the instruction shout began for the second time, I quickly started throwing jab I knew would hit. Carefully measured the distance between a could fire the test shot to 0 to 100. Once I had a solid grasp of the space separating us, I began to move quickly around him, swaying from side to side, imitating a sniping, unpredictably changing location after every shot. It was more effective than I hoped. Whether you are sniping or first strike, still circling swiftly around a stationary centimeter target makes it really hard for them to land an effective shot. I missed to my pattern of attack, trying to create an opportunity to close the issue, but the opponent was much larger than me. His reach was too long. I was basically pointing a handgun at the cannon. If he landed a single solid punch only before I got in range, my fighting would instantly be reversed. Once they had me in a sluggish match, nothing I could do prevent a massacre. The best I could manage was to stay in constant motion to keep myself from carelessly hesitating and taking the first penalty. Keep moving, always stay diagonal to your opponent. It took a full week for me to learn those basic lessons, and even afterward I usually left the daily head-to-head session better and bruised. That into the spending ended with me beating black and blue, lying flat on the ground with my lips spread while I felt the earth rotating
大
underneath
丈
me.
夫？怪我を見せて。
A girl. Probably sympathy with the way I passive induced those one-side beating. A young woman approached me with a first aid kit in her hands. I can't remember her face very well after all this time, but I'm pretty sure her name was Marin. Okay, this is the different one. She didn't have any memories of her past. Know where she come from, know why she was in this school, know what she be doing next. But then again, I was just surprised to my own future. I didn't get the feeling that Marin pitied me because of our similarities here. For whatever reason, she helped me out many times after that day. When I was injured in the training, she treated me my wounds. When I lost the fight and had to run through dinner as a penalty, she set aside her food and shared with me. Even in a place like this, full of twisted outcasts, there were some people who show kindness to others. Look at it that way, maybe it's too early to give up on the world entirely. Now I once said saying, but we're not all villains either. The strong might get ahead, but even weakly like me could find a helping hand. There are plenty of bastards out there I never get along with, but every once in a while I can find someone who's willing to put up with me. That's the way it is forever. I'm not going to complain. At times, I find myself remember something Kazuki told me once.
あのね、ユージ。嫌なものを片っ端から排除していけば、いい世の中になるなんて考え方が許されるのは、小学生か独裁者ぐらいよ。まあ、実際あなたは小学生なのだから、惨めで無様に泣き叫んで、誰かが何とかしてくれるのを待つのも許されるような気もするけれど、私の弟としては許されません。あなたも私の弟なら、文句を言う前に行動なさい。でも、どうしてもダメだという時には、私が何とでもするし、何とかしてあげる。 あなた、私の弟でよかったわね。お姉ちゃん、ありがとうわ。
Thank you, One-chan. Right, because she was alive, I could try anything I wanted. I was allowed to fail. But without her, I lost that safety net. I could cry all I wanted, but Kazuki wouldn't hear me. I had to do everything by myself now. Continuing on, the others will get you betrayed. Hoping for the best will leave you disappointed. You were the only thing you could truly rely on, and sometimes you had to distrust even yourself. That's the sort of place this world is. There were strange things going on in that school. People will always disappear with no explanation, and sometimes the most rebellious students will abruptly become completely passive adults, as if their personality had transformed overnight. The opposite was uncommon either. Timid, quiet kids become completely aggressive for no reason. They were also suspicious incidents along those lines. But this place had been suspicious enough from the start, and at this point our classes were covered with things you can't read about in any textbook. This school was for a machine for the creation of terrorists. We were just the raw materials. Okay, what happened next? Every once in a while, I received special lessons directly from he also himself.
いいかい、ユージ。暗殺者というとどうしても重火器を使うイメージがある。だがそれはナンセンスだと思わないかい？
You look so sexy, Oslo. His striping was the topic of the lesson that day. After truly disassembling automatic rifle, I was to line out in a piece nearly on the ground and accurately resemble that as quickly as possible. Also, I began to speak as quietly as I quietly sat at the task.
武器を持った相手の対処法として一応は教えるが、君は銃なんて無粋なものを使う必要はない。弾がなくなれば殴るぐらいしか使い物にならないような道具に依存するな。やはり刃物だよ。いや、刃物である必要すらない。もっと単純に尖っているものなら何でもいいんだ。
With those words, he also pulled me away from the lesson to train in knife combat, his personal specialty. The most primitive method of murder. That means our experience is sexual and taking a life in the most direct possible way. He drilled that knowledge into me with single-minded zeal. As we trained, he laid bare my mental weakness as well.
ユージ、君はこの世の中で生きていくには優しすぎるんだ。無意識の君。君の本能はあんなにも息汚いというのに、どうしてそれを隠してしまうんだい？殺さなければ殺される。だから殺される前に殺す。それが唯一のルールだ。死にたくなければ殺せ。一歩でも世の中に出れば周りは敵だらけだ。家族ですら敵だった君だ。理解できないわけじゃないだろう。そして君は今まで何度も敵を倒すことで生き残ってきた。正義は勝つのではない。勝った者が正義なのだとは陳腐なセリフだが、それは真理さ。負けて殺されてしまった者はもう何も語れないのだから、勝った者だけが正当性を主張できる。当たり前のことだ。だから殺される前に殺せ。生きて私のところへ帰ってこい。それだけだ。簡単だろ？
His words were cursed lay carefully on my heart. There was no contact with the outside. No information entered that place. Not truth, not even lies. And at the center of this sealed-off little world, there was always heat or slow. His words were absolutely unquestionable, and I was painful toy that moved mechanically to respond to his orders. At some point, I began receiving experimental medication at the military research laboratory of Oslo, apparently old. As I grew used to fending for myself in the harsh environment of the training camp, I grew stronger, tougher in mind and body. In the mountain winter, I learned the rough fortitude necessary to eat when there was no food to be had. From my lessons, I learned how to make bombs that couldn't easily be defused. I learned how to parachute and scuba dive so I could infiltrate any target under any circumstances. And locked inside a wooden box with nothing but a single cup of water, I learned how to endure suffering. My body reached its limit. They used drugs to force me back to my feet. Killing people efficiently requires truthfully knowledge of how the human body is constructed, so naturally my lesson also include the dissection of human corpses. It also seemed pleased with my efforts.
いいぞユージ。君は本当に可愛いやつだ。君のクズ親父と知り合ってよかったと本当にそう思うよ。君を手に入れてよかった風見ユージ。君は最高だ。
Clapping his hands together also lavished praises on me. Being complimented made me happy. It might have been the first time I heard words like that from anyone other than my sisters or mother. I never been praised by a dog man before, not even once. Even my own father had given me a single compliment. Before I knew it, I was fighting back tears. To be perfectly honest, also words has become the source of emotional support for me at the time. I wanted to be praised. With that simple motivation, I threw myself into my task. This was all I was good for. There wasn't anything else about me worth complimenting. It was the only way I could be useful. Now that I understand how I was being useful or for what purpose. If I tried to think about it, my head would start hurting. After about 6 months at that school, I was no longer giving my head headaches worrying about the details.
風見雄二の成績がいいようだね。
According to the data gathered by the technicians at all those research facilities, I do produce above average result in a remarkable brief period of time. The researcher seems to believe it was an effect of the doping regimen that had administered, but also himself was convinced my natural talent had simply come to the surface. Either way, they decided I was ready for my final test, the so-called graduation exam. On that day, I was presented with my final lesson in hand-to-hand combat. The test was extremely simple. I do pass as long as I brought back the death of my opponent. There wasn't any other rules. And in an ugly twist of fate, that opponent was Marin. No, fate probably wasn't involved, in retrospect. Why you fake? You fight Marin? I imagine they deliberately pair people off with their most intimate friend in the facility as a way of forcing us to get the result of sacrifice everything for our objective. In this place where you had a bad feeling about something, it was usually realized. That's how it was designed.
肉親ですらその手にかけた君だ。今さら顔見知りの一人ぐらい殺したところでどうということはないだろう。
It was true and now no use trying to lie to myself. In the first place, it wasn't exactly uncommon for students to die over the course of their training. Not to mention the casualty from spontaneous fight and punishment inflicted by the groups of fellow students. Just the previous week, there had been a guy who committed suicide after being relentlessly bullied over his poor result. And then there was the new kid who made a habit of wandering the hall at night, moaning loudly. Guess he got the attention of our veterans. Someone found him in the bathroom one morning with his face submerged in the toilet. In this place, the walls separated life from death was thin and fragile. But so killing someone we lived for months in cold blood was a different story. Even if we didn't have anything in the way of team spirit, murdering a person you got to know is even more difficult than you might imagine. Therefore, our instructions gave all the graduation candidates a stimulant, telling us it was drug that would sharpen our kinetic vision and boost our reflex. The results varied widely. Some people became so agitated they could barely sit still, snapping to pointless raging over things that normally wouldn't bother them, and snarling at the slightest provocation, but others were so busy processing the sudden flood of sensory information that they actually felt unnaturally calm. I suppose I was in the latter group, and Marin, my opponent, was definitely in the former. In any case, they said I needed to kill her if I wanted to graduate, so that was I had to do. As the two of us saw, I couldn't find anything to say to the person I was about to fight to the death. Maybe it was the same for Marin, or maybe she no longer even cared. Most likely it was the latter. Even if the girl standing in front of me was technically Marin, something else was controlling her mind now. Her eyes started to relax back and forth, worried about seeing anything more than the enemy in front of her. Marin beat in rough, quick gasps as if to expect the heat gathering inside her body. It was obvious at a glance how agitated she was. There was no referee for this match. No instruction to shout begin, or that's enough. It will end until one of us was dead. Spitting out her red-hot anger in the scream, Marin suddenly threw herself forward. She surged towards me, her limbs outstretched to the limit and cutting through the air. She whirled away on her left hand, twisting her half of the body to balance herself. She swung her right leg with all her strength, vigorously, not even considering the possibility of a counter-attack. I could see all of it, every movement flowing into the next as if I was watching a slow motion film. Marin shot out, in the next moment her legs curled upward, tossing stretched towards my face. Not an easy kick to defend, given that quick transition from a straightforward jab to an archery transition, but I do see it many times in training. Her precise execution actually made it easier to anticipate. I raised my guard, shielding myself chin, neck, and Marin's light ray instantly smacked against my cross arm. Her squeeze was heavier than I expected. Her feeble leg turned sharply in the opposite direction with the force of delivery. My arm screamed for impact. In the same instant, she twisted her leg violently to slip around my defense, striking back to my head with a toe. For a moment, my vision went blurry. Marin shows absolute no hesitation, even delivered a kick that could easily have her left leg broken and useless. It wasn't anything worth worrying about. In physics, physical strength, reaction speed, and tactical judgment alike, I was significantly superior to Marin. I just had to take her first attack, then land an accurate counter, that was all. Sorry about this, Marin. The kid had left her fridge while awkward plantedly. While to the young woman who being kind to me, echoing inside my strength for my I just wanted to drop my right knee at her before she began attacking. Ouch! My kneecap slashed into Marin's face. Something against me. I must have shattered her nest of bone. Similarly, by the impact, I felt a wave of energy surge through every muscle in my body. Marin's body swayed and wobbled like a spinning top running out of momentum. If she collapsed now, it would be easier enough to finish this. She couldn't be thinking too clearly after taking that sort of hit to the head. There wasn't much risk of her luring me in and going for a grappling move. And yet... Marin did fall. With a fierce scream, she forcibly tied her fairly conscious to reality through sheer force of will. Damn it! Not unless she saw the lion gaze in my right temple. It was such a wild lunge that it was hard to imagine how she expected to hit me. Maybe she was moving on real easily by now. Just like before, there was no sign she was even considering defense. I saw his lay around to her unguarded right flank and led another knee strike. The blow lands on the I could feel Marin's kidney twitch and curl out inside her abdomen muscle contract sharply. It was obvious she hadn't been remotely prepared to take that hit. A kick like that hurts so bad that it feels like someone jabbed a knife into your internal organs. I experienced it myself more than once. The instant that pain registered, the world was real wide. You instantly grabbed your side and fall to your knees. Marin was gasping for breath, her mouth open wide, but it didn't help her nest the cavity was completely blocked with blood. Instinctively stooped over to protect her stomach. Chin thrust out defensively as she got down until the girl won't cease to be asking for a finishing blow. I'll pull you out of your misery. With that thought running through my mind, I landed a right hook to Marin's chin. Her head rocked on the exit at her neck like a dummy. The mass of brain cells floating inside her skull shortly widely back and forth. Marin's eyes instantly spun backward in their sockets. She had to be unconscious, but she still didn't fall. What the hell? Right as I drove a second punch into her chin and then third. But even somebody would go down. Her mouth hung off her limb. The punch's mind dislocated her jaw, spinning forward, split the floor down her chin. Her eyes completely unfocused, spun endlessly around, but Marin didn't fall. Damn it! Somehow she must have been clinging onto the one last bit of willpower, knowing that she died if her knee touches the ground. No matter how she realized it, Marin stayed on her feet. If anything won't do, I just throw her off balance. Cracking my tongue was starting to frighten me. Resisting the urge to slap. I reached out and shoved her heavily against Marin's shoulder, tried to push her to the ground. That moment I found myself looking straight into her face, her battle swollen against a dark bruised red with blood. Ah! That face! Woke up something had been laid later inside me, and suddenly my mother was moving like I wanted to. That face! I've seen that face before. No! Ah! It was the face of my mother, the one I seen at the very end. Someone had stabbed a rod of ice into the center of my heart. I tried my unconscious at the sudden cold inside me. What am I doing? Eating a woman until she looks like this. How am I different? How am I any different from her? And as the spectacle screams to me for me, I flashed way back to the moment where I struck my father. Ah! I couldn't move. My knees shook like branches in the wind. I wanted to fall to the ground and curl out like a ball. Finally clutching where I stood, I abandoned the fight entirely. It was no good. I was no good. I couldn't kill her. It was kill or to be killed, but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. Gah! As my name friendly laughter rang out, the situation reversed completely. My deranged drug classmate kicked and punched me countless times, drunk on one side violence. And I lay there and dirty in the bed. So over I thought my skin would burst for intensity. This is my punishment. This is what I deserve for eating a woman. I was used to pain. All I had to do was endure it, and it would end immediately. In the end, I couldn't do anything else. Story of my life. Resigned to my fate, passively accepted the rain of blows. I heard a familiar voice shouting from somewhere far away.
どうしたユージ？今さら何人殺そうが同じことだ。立て！立って戦え！
Oslo was shrieking from the crowd, ordering me to stand, but not even he could move me now.
なんてこった。まったくユージ、君ってやつは。
Watching Marie beats me to the verge, I also pinched the corner of his eye in obvious disappointment. Although I did somehow manage to survive, I was badly injured and completely immobilized. The staff proceeded to unceremoniously toss me into the school's underground treatment facility. Then they might give you the wrong impression the place was basically a dungeon where they left the severe wounded to rot. Lying flat on the floor, I felt the cold concrete quickly, absorbing the heat from my inflamed skin. It felt wonderful. Ultimately, someone would save Yuuji here, I think. Even so, it occurred to me that if I let myself fall asleep like this, I almost certainly never wake up again. Doesn't sound so bad. If I die down here, Marin would get to graduate. It seems a little pathetic to be searching for meaning in my defeat, but at the very least, Marin would get out of this place that place. I had to focus on that fact. If my existence would become so completely pointless, I might just go crazy. I didn't receive any real treatment down there. I was just lying on the ground like a discard rate when Marie came to visit me, having regained her sanity when the effect of the drug faded. A few hours might have passed by that point. Wakened to the sensation of the damn hot towel scrubbing my face, I was surprised to find that my right eye would open. In the face, I couldn't even lift my face from the ground. My blood has congealed around me, literally gluing my skin and hair to the concrete.
本当にごめんなさい。
Mumbling words of apologize, Marin carefully wiped my face with a towel, cleaning off the hardening blood. Sleep on the bare floor, my size severe low, my body temperature, the hot probably felt incredibly good. As she tried to end my injuries, Marin sniffed quietly and spoke again.
どうしてこんなことになっちゃったんだろうね。
It was the last thing I wanted to hear. Those were the same words my mother had left behind in the suicide note. Words of surrender, offering nothing but despair and weakness. But it's not like I had any answer to them. So I responded only with a silence. I don't know how Marie interpreted my attitude. Whatever the case, she returned to the basement room the next day and the next, quietly treating my injuries as if it was her duty.
調子はどう？何か食べられそう？
I'm not hungry.
少しでも何か食べないと怪我が治らないよ。胃が空っぽのままじゃ薬も飲めないし。
I don't want any medicine either.
どうして？
It's ridiculously bitter.
バカね。薬が苦いのは当たり前でしょ。安心して。毒じゃないわ。ほら、私が飲んでみせるから。ね。
And then I swallowed a mouthful of the liquid medicine she brought for me.
何これ？本当に苦い。
I thought she's so stupid.
本当、ひどい味ね。でも、飲めば炎症が収まって、ちゃんと眠れるようになるから、飲んで。あと、食事も。ほら、口を開けて。
I will feed myself.
そう言って、この前も全然食べなかったじゃない。一人じゃ起き上がることもできないくせに。いいから口を開けるのよ。ほら。
How many days have passed since Marie first visited to the basement? It might be the first time I have talked so much with another person since I arrived at that school. The place was full of people with bitter and traumatic pasts, just like me. So the unspoken rule was to keep your distance. Our private lives and personal stories were off limits. Of course, Marie had absolutely no memories of her past to begin with. That should make it easier to get by here. It was completely normal to her, and she didn't seem to bother by it. After examining my injuries in silence for a few minutes, Marie suddenly asked me a question.
あなたは、どうしてあんな男に拾われたの？
I didn't understand. Why ask about my circumstances now, after all this time? The question felt so strange that I couldn't find anything to say. What would it change if I told you, Marin? Why does it matter to you? You don't even know the first thing about yourself. Maybe you forgot about the past because it was too painful to remember. Sounds pretty good to me. I would go with that too. I don't even want to remember. It wasn't as if anything good would come from remembering. Talking wasn't going to undo what was already done. My life was never going to change unless I changed it myself.
私ね、近いうちにこの学校を卒業することになったの。
Really good for you.
うん。でも、本当に良かったのかな。
Leaving this place would mean working as a pawn of Oslo. But no matter what I was waiting for us, I figured it had to be better than aimlessly circling around this sewer of a place for the rest of our lives. Don't worry about me. Once you get out of this place, try to just forget me and everything else that happened here. Whatever they make you do, that should be making it a lot easier.
私、戦うのは苦手。人を傷つけないで生きていければ、それが一番いいのにね。
So that's everyone else. When you hurt people, you might get hurt. When you kill people, you might get killed. Nobody wants to live in a world where the only options are to take a life or lose your own. But if you want to survive, you can't avert your eyes. The people who run away from reality dies first. The way I broken down after seeing my mom in Marie's bloody face was a good case in a point.
じゃあ、また来るから。
What? With those words, Marie left the basement, but she didn't visit me the next day. She didn't come the day after that either, or even the day after that. At that point, I finally understood. Marie had graduated and left this place behind. Those words had been a casual goodbye. Their real meaning was, if I survive, I will come to see you again. I think it was about 2 weeks or so after Marie left. With my wounds mostly healed, I was officially upgraded from critical to stable condition. That meant I was authorized to leave the basement and admit myself to the medical wing. It was there that I heard the news.
ああ、あの子ならね、もう死んじゃったよ。
What?
それなりにいい成績だったから期待はしていたんだけどね。初めての仕事でつまらない失敗をしちゃったんだって。残念なことだよね。っていうかさ、卒業してすぐに死なれちゃうと、うちの教育に問題があったんじゃないかって、いろいろと上から言われて、すごく面倒なんだよね。あんたもさ、ここを出て行った後は、しばらくは死なないことだけに気をつけてよ。マジで迷惑だからさ。
Marie was dead. It's not like this sort of thing hadn't happened before. New people were always coming in, not only to disappear without warning. She was just one of many. They were so maybe if I beat Marie down in that final test and graduated in place, she wouldn't have died like this. I couldn't help being a little bothered by that. It's because he was so nice to me. Maybe that was the real reason Marie was gone. Every woman who treated me kindly ended up dead. I couldn't let myself rely on anyone ever again. The more I thought about it, the more I convinced myself of that. So, what are you gonna do? By the time I received permission to discharge myself, there was a completely different group of trainees in the laundry facilities. I've been recuperating for so long that the other survivors from my classmates had finished their terms and graduated. There was a single familiar faces there. Left. Normally I should jump right back to the training to make up for the months I spent recuperating. But the instructions had all started over with the next generation of students, and it's not like they were going to take the time to offer me personalized lessons. So while the others drilled, I was simply assigned separately under the name of personal training. To be honest though, it wasn't much of a training regimen. They basically just ignored me and let me do whatever I wanted. I kept a regular running schedule in order to regain my endurance. So that I get a little fire seconds to maintain my eyesight, but otherwise didn't do anything much. Even when I was just walking around limited, they start just turned a blind eye. Nobody ever bothered chewing up on anyone. In fact, sometimes they will not regularly in my direction and say, keep at it. Not only did the instructors seem to know me, they treated me with respect and didn't ask me to participate in the training. I spent most of my time wandering in the halls for no better reason. So understandably enough, the new guys mostly kept their distance, shooting me, waiting there. Look, who the hell is that guy supposed to be? Finally, 2 months after my first attempt, I was given another chance at graduation. For my second exam, I was tasked with carrying out an actual assassination in the field. For all the intents and purposes, it was premature graduation immediate deployment. The target was one of the 3 judges who were pre-studied over the international trial over what we hear also suspected crimes in various foreign countries. To put it simply, I was there to cover Oslo as by killing a man who could be swayed by money. After arriving in Canada, I escaped to America boat by boat. The proceed of the objective under the identity of a Chinese woman named Chu Li Huan. For some time, I conducted surveillance of the hotel where the judge was scheduled to stay. And on the night of the mission, I walked inside and headed for the reception, dressed in female clothes to match my falsified identity. And the episode here. It's killing time in the next episode. Adios e famosa.